Namaste, Galactic family, and welcome back to the channel, guys. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have a special guest, Miss Marguerite Rigoglioso. She's been on my channel quite a few times now, and essentially, I just love this woman. She's so full of knowledge. She's so amazing. And so we decided we wanted to bring an interesting topic to the forefront to talk to you guys today about the demonized plant medicine and the cults of Dionysus. So Marguerite has so much intel on this. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Indy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, it's always a pleasure to have you on the channel because, I mean, your wealth of knowledge, we get along so well. We have all this rooted inheritance, I feel like ancestrally as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just, we resonate on so many similar topics. And so, yeah.
I know every time you put something out, I'm like, oh my God, I totally get what she's saying. You know, this dovetails with what I've been doing. Amazing how she's picking up, and thank you for teaching me even more about this topic. So I'm a fan.
Yeah. And I just want to say to everybody watching today that essentially I am sitting in my backyard. So I'm actually sitting outside, and it's just a really nice day today. And I've been relaxing and kind of, been taking sessions throughout the day. So yeah, this is just going to be a gentle conversation, I think. And we're going to get into kind of just maybe having a conversation, right? Like we're going to be talking about why these plants are demonized, when they were demonized, how they were demonized. So maybe you can kick that conversation off for us.
I absolutely will. Plant medicine. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but when I was young, it was all the kind of just say no to drugs, ba-da-da-da-da. And I just took that seriously everywhere. I mean, I never really started in myself with plant medicine until I was in my late 30s. And I went to grad school and I met my person who was my partner. He became my partner for 9 years, and he became my plant medicine teacher. And it was when, as soon as I took my first medicine, it was like, oh my God. I mean, everything came alive that I'd been studying about intellectually and academically for years. And I was like, wow, this world is real, And so the plant that I had begun with was psilocybin mushrooms, but it was also a pretty tough taskmaster for me because I had so much trauma that I was needing to deal with and release. And I really needed more guidance than I even had. And so that's why, I am working with people now to provide them with that guidance from the get-go, or to help them kind of realign a relationship that might have gone awry early on with plants. And, I know we'll talk about it. I've got my new Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy coming through Seven Sisters Mystery School, which is my school. But I feel really inspired and guided to be talking to people about this now, because, I went from psilocybin and then having some pretty intense experiences with that, kind of going on pause for like 7 years, and then getting tricked into working with cannabis. That's a little story in and of itself. Then all of a sudden I was like, wow, okay, I am basically essentially starting to channel with cannabis. I had never had that experience before. And then I started working with that plant medicine for years. And then somebody introduced me to cacao, Angela de la Agua, my beautiful sister. And that was in 2017. And then I started realizing, wow, this is an even different kind of plant medicine that opens your heart as well as your consciousness. And then I got introduced to Blue Lotus. So these are the 3 plants that we're going to be working with this Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy, which happens to start on Tuesday, May 23rd, a little bit after this filming. But, plants, like you were saying, have basically been demonized. And when they haven't been demonized, they've been hijacked to a large degree. either through pharmaceutical manipulation, turning them into some kind of drug or, high level rocket you into 12th dimensional consciousness without having any preparation. Or, they've been hybridized now, or for years they've been illegalized, right?
Yeah.
And what is that all about? But cutting people off from their essential knowing, from a real fairy, deva, ally that can get us into fifth dimensional and higher consciousness right away. So there's just so much, there's so many reasons for this. As we know, there's so much that's going on, but we're reclaiming this now. And I think this is really important, especially for women, because let's face it, the medicine space has been dominated by men for several decades now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it has not been very welcoming or leaving the door open for women to refigure out how we can go back and be those priestesses. And, the whole thing about, okay, here's something you'll love. The witch and the broomstick. You may already know about this. That was the method by which women would insert the medicine into their bodies through the vagina. So when they demonize that as consorting with the devil sexually, right? And it's like, well, no, I am opening my consciousness to other dimensional beings.
So when you say inserting this medicine into the vagina, is this using
the broomstick?
The broomsticks? Are they how are they doing that though?
It's a salve that they would create, because women were the original creators of these medicines and salves and these potions that we know from antiquity. And so they would create these salves, put it on the broom, put it into their vagina, and it was ingenious because it wouldn't make you nauseous or anything like that. And then they'd be together. The original coven was women going into ceremony on medicine together. Okay. And talk about our Italian roots. They called them the Benandante. There was a group that would go in and they would do all of this reconnaissance and removal of negative spirits and stuff for the community, right? In Italy, like these things are documented. And then you have this thing of the witches with the green faces. Again, a medicine salve.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
So this is about reclaiming the witches, reclaiming the priestesses, all that sort of thing.
Well, let's give a quick shout out to the ladies we have in the room. Okay, so we have Arizona Raven, hey girl, and Pia's here as well. So this is an interesting conversation. We're already going in.
We're already
going in.
Yeah. Did you mean to share a screen? Because what you've got right now is your back room.
Yeah, I did mean to share that because I was just showing the chat.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, because I can't do it by on the Zoom. The chat doesn't come up on Zoom.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah. So yeah, I'll stop the screen share. I just wanted to look at that and just show you real quick. But that is so interesting. I've thought, I know there's a lot of remedies even now, so to speak, with the sacred oils and stuff that we have. Like I know tea tree oil and things like that. We kind of talked about that on the last show, actually.
Right.
And I'll leave the links down in the description on this if anyone wants to go back and watch some of the topics and discussions that me and Marguerite have gotten into in the past. But yeah, so that's really, really, so much like symbolism in this. Like we've been watching movies about the witches with the green face for so long, and it's like that was such a subliminal thing coming through.
So totally, it makes them disgusting, right? And that is one hot way of disempowering women and medicine women. Okay, and so you either denigrate them, then you take away the medicines by illegalizing them, then you further distort the medicines by tampering with them, and then you witch burn people. Okay, that's another layer. All these witch burning situations that went on, a lot of them had to do with people, and especially women, who were opening their consciousness. And then all of a sudden they're in front of the Inquisition and they're being, killed. So like there's that deep, deep level that combines with the illegality and combines with the hijack and tampering and hybriding, which makes it unconsciously women are like, I don't know if I want to open that door. Then on top of it, what do you have? The addiction. The addiction schema, because if they couldn't get it with the tampering or the illegalizing, then they would get everybody with the addiction. Okay, so there's a lot of memes and energies and things that will hook into the plant medicine beings and entities that can hook in, especially when they're not approached in a proper way that's beneficial. And then all of a sudden you're addicted, right?
Yeah.
So now this plant medicine that was supposed to be helpful, you're now addicted to it. And you've got all these different levels of beings that are interfering with your life. This is all of what needs to be cleared off so that women can re-enter this sacred path of being the medicine woman with wisdom, with integrity, with joy, and with true world service. That's what we're doing with the Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy that starts next week.
I think that's a really good point to make, actually, because I mean, if you think about our community, I know it's actually very controversial. I mean, there's a lot of people sitting on both sides of the fence, like, you're not spiritual, if you smoke weed.
Right.
I've had people just like directly call that out.
Yeah.
I've seen YouTubers call that out. Like, don't you think for a second you're connecting to Andromeda and Sirius and all these cosmic things? You think these cosmic beings are going to make contact with a body or a vessel that's not pure? I've heard people like really come from these perspectives, and it's interesting. And then you have people sitting on the other side of it. Was like, no, this is great. This is healing. Opens us up spiritually. This helps us connect to the higher dimensions. This is a gift from the earth, and so it's still very polarized. It's still very divided.
And where those two can be reconciled and healed is in exactly what I'm teaching now, which is, okay, the, Shasta people or whoever were saying that you shouldn't be having cannabis in you. It does this, that, and the other thing. And then the people who are like, no, this is an oracle thing.
Mm-hmm.
What you want is, like anything, you have to approach this plant with wisdom, with integrity, with honoring, and with intention, mainly. That is what puts us on the ground of right relationship. And we don't have to worry about, is my auric field getting Swiss cheesed? Am I getting other entities interfering with me?
Mm-hmm.
Because we are already learning the sacred protocol, which I'm going to be teaching people for how to get into and work with the plant to begin with, or to get into realignment with a plant if you got addicted, let's say, to that plant, years ago, or you knew you were kind of misusing back in the 60s or whatever, it's about, because that's a new age meme too, that's disempowering.
Yeah.
So those beings, they get anywhere they can to make people doubt, question, And we're like, reclaim the whole thing, clear it up, re-empower it to use it as an ally, as an adjunct. It's not your primary. It's not the only way you're going to be able to access information. In fact, these plants are just teachers. They're here to give us the vibration, teach us the vibration so that we can, like, you're automatically a very open channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many times I am, many times others are. And we can go even quicker, faster, when we're working with the medicine as an assist, right? So these plants are all about opening to our Star Nation allies. They're all about opening to our fairy Deva allies. They're all about helping us to see, sense, and commune with these beings and co-create with them. And they're all about opening our heart and doing our healing and releasing our trauma. But it's all about intention. You have to go at it with ceremonial intention.
So what's been your journey then with how you've come to learn this, and like what experiences then did you have that helped you to approach it in this new sacred kind of way versus seeing all of the veils of disillusion and mind controlling and programming? That is what most of, people today are dealing with is,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And this is so evolutionary, the reclaiming of these plants, because it's really about reclaiming, working with the Davic spirits. Okay. Like, these are just high octane Davic spirits that we can work with. My journey was a little bit the hard way, like I alluded to a little earlier. When I first started working with psilocybin, which I don't work with anymore because it's a little too much for me, because I think I already was an open oracle. And so yeah, that was just too much. Maybe though, today I could, because I've done a real lot of healing work since then. And what was interesting about the psilocybin is you'd get the visuals, right?
Mm.
Which you don't really get with cacao. You don't so much get with lady cannabis. You might, depending on how much. You don't really get with blue lotus. These are the more friendly plant allies, which is why I'm working with them as the first step of the Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. But let's face it, when I first started working with psilocybin, my very first ceremony, where do you think Marguerite went, Indigo? All right, the 2 years into the underworld. Okay.
As did I. My first experience. Yes.
All right, sister.
Mm-hmm.
We're going elevator straight down.
Yeah.
You and I have that karma, and we're aligned with, like, we are exposing everything in the world. So what do we go to? I started seeing the shadow side of all the goddesses. I started seeing the shadow of the goddesses. Holy cow, not only the shadow of my sacred feminine mentor humans, but the shadow of the goddesses themselves, the shadow of the feminine. That was like a shocker, And then I had all these different other types of experiences of kind of being in like hell realms. I didn't even know what it was. I had this experience also of being that I had done something that was such a big transgression that I could never be forgiven. And I knew that what it was that I thought that I was God, or I claimed to be God. What I understood years later was that was a memory of being part of the fallen angelics.
Okay.
Because it was wanting to be God in the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think, okay, I'm just going to interject with an implant here. So I was seeing this same thing with the Vatican seals, that this was a part of them creating the, it's a seal or it's an implant in which, you have priest who you have to go confess your sins to the priest versus speak directly to God. So it's where they're kind of taking that and inserted a lot of those fear matrices. And people, they have this in their field all the time. Many people, not everybody, but I mean, it's interesting. So it still reruns that fear of God code.
Fear of God code and fear of being one with God, and a hubris program, like it was like a feeling of I had so much hubris that I thought I was God, and therefore I had transgressed. So whatever level it is that you're talking about, whether it's an implant that was in me, or whether it was a memory of my actual fallen angelic lineage, which in a way I think it was, because I think I've done everything, like you, been to all the negative nations, and I've been part of it. So I had to have that, or I had to at least access that information about the fallen angelics. The only way that I was going to get there was through psilocybin right at that time, right? Now that was kind of scary because I didn't really have a sitter who could really help me through that. All right. I didn't need to have suffered the degree that I did for all those years afterward, recovering from that, if I had had a sacred context to help me. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that a sitter can take away everything you need to learn, but it certainly can help you go through quicker and like move on and not be stuck for 7 years wondering, why the heck did I have such a bad trip, right? This is how we're helping one another. I'm starting to create a collective container for all of us to have these protocols, create the protections, have buddies, right, who know and can help you out of a pickle if you get into it. And also, you know, working with these plants to begin with that help you start in before you decide to do any of those other much stronger medicines, let alone the whole artificially created drugs that they've got now going on. So, you know, we don't have to suffer with the plant medicine to the degree that we think we needed to. So, but, you know, I experienced the hard way like you did. And I just had such hell realm experiences, but it taught me about the negative beings. So I can't say that it was entirely bad or a waste of time, but, you know, I wish that I had more guidance at the time, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I can really relate to that. I mean, when I first tried it, I was just a kid. I mean, I was really young. Oh my gosh. I think I tried psilocybin at 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me, when I went into those hell realms, it was just all my fear.
Yeah.
My worst childhood fears were just,
Yeah.
it was just coming up, and I didn't understand any of that. I didn't know how to process any of that
No,
at that time.
don't. I mean, it's like telling a child to become, you know, the president of a country. What child is going to be able to handle that? And yet that's what it is when you are so young and taking this stuff. Even me, I was in my late 30s and I was like, I can't process this. I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there could have been an actual initiatory stages and processes situation where I was being led in to be able to chew and digest it, you know, start on the more gentle plants, maybe work my way up, find out what is my role with these plants, how much do I want to use them, right? How can I actually entrain my own body to have the chemicals within me that, right? And so that we don't create more trauma, because clearly you might have had trauma from that. I had trauma from my early experience, and I want people to not have to have trauma. I want them to have learning, and I want them to be able to use this to get into the states of consciousness that they need.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and put a disclaimer on this. So if you are not of the age, is it 21? Is it 21? Okay. Yeah, I don't recommend that. I'm just sharing my personal experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Honestly, just like you don't have people do certain things before certain ages, this is part of what I'm trying to teach at the Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. We don't want 12, 14, and even 16-year-olds around there poking around in stuff where they're going to get way over their head, create more trauma, not have any guidance, and then be trying to recover for, 10 years from that. No, we want to create a way that they can be led in. And that's where we need the priestesses again, Indy. Only the priestesses are going to do it. We are the ones, we're the mothers. We have the mothering energy for that.
So let's look at what you're actually doing then. I have the link here up. And so this is really awesome. I mean, this is exciting. This is fun. Yeah. So let's look at this. So you're going to be doing this May 23rd through July 29th, 2023.
Yeah. So it's a series of modules that have myself and 3 other priestesses who were trained in Seven Sisters Mystery School, Helen Avitabile, Angela de la Agua, and Connie Viveros. who are going to be teaching on Blue Lotus, Mama Cacao, and Lady Cannabis. And you can get a sense of them in that free video that's available on demand, High Priestesses, where you were just scrolling down.
Yeah, here.
And that's a little trailer.
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear it.
I'm wondering if,
Yeah,
can you guys hear this?
I'm not hearing it. No.
I might have to
Yeah.
do something on my Zoom.
But this week we just had a free video with my priestesses. Yeah, it's just a great little trailer that's there. Ayla Sophia, I mentioned her to you.
Wow, everybody looks so beautiful. I love the pictures.
Yeah. And so each one is going to take a module teaching us, and then we're going to do a ceremony online together with that plant. And nobody has to ingest anything for any and all of these if they don't want to. You can take it, you can go into ceremony without ingesting, you know, if you're not feeling ready or safe. But we do give people like enough time to think about it between the teaching module and the ceremony. But I love online ceremony. It's a great format. I've been doing it with cacao for years. It creates a lot of safety for people. And I'm going to give a very careful protocol on how people approach sacred ceremony, what to do, how to prepare, where to source your plants and so forth. And this is really about like multiple levels, people's own healing. Okay, because the plants help you heal. They help you get out of stuckness. They help you open your heart. They help you develop compassion. They help you sail the cosmos, right? With safety and integrity, open to your own oracle. So there's that level, that personal level, that healing level, that spiritual level. And then there's the level of starting to help you be a sacred guide for others, the young people in your life who might be curious about cannabis. And instead of being old fuddy-duddy, say no to drugs person, you might be like, hey, I can give you an initiation, you know? Right?
Well, I think that's the thing with kids and teenagers. You can say no and you could tell them not to do this and not to do that. But if they want to, you know, experiment, they're going to find a way to do it anyways. And a lot of times they're going to try and go behind the parents' back to do it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's good to be open with your kids about this stuff and the experiences. Like, be very open,
Right.
be very willing to share it, because this is how they're learning, is they're kind of looking through your lens.
And also teach them how to not get into dependency.
Right.
And become the stoner kid lying on the couch and not doing anything with their life.
Yeah.
You know, like when you work with the plants with integrity, they're allies, they're not detriments. And they help you get through those issues of why you started going into the plant to begin with, to get release, to get relief, whatever. But it's not like a daily thing that you have to rely on it in order to feel better. It's
right.
You parse it out, right? And then, and this is for also for people who might want to take next steps into actually initiating, you know, not just the young people in your life, but others. Maybe people who might want to be working with chemical dependency folks. And certainly for people who want to go higher into their oracle space, into their channeling space. And also for us to work in a group. You know, these groups, those covens of 13 women were really powerful. They'd be protecting the community. They'd be getting the downpours of information that they needed, guidance for the group. That's what we're wanting to reclaim.
So people just need to come to Seven Sister Mystery School, sevensistersmysteryschool.com. I actually have an affiliate link down below. So if you guys click on that, it will take you to her course so you can sign up.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily a course. This is it's
the beginning. It's a course. It starts and it ends in July, but it's the beginning and it's the prerequisite for everything else I'm going to be doing, which includes a Lady Cannabis mentoring program, quarterly online ceremonies, covens, if you will, and then a yearly retreat where we're going to work with a medicine per retreat and really get into it. Like, how are we being priestesses for this world?
Well, this is so awesome, Marguerite. I'm really excited that you're hosting this. I think it's a one-of-a-kind thing. I haven't seen anybody do anything like this yet.
I know. It's so amazing when you think of it. I mean, because now plant medicine is getting to be all the rage, right? And microdosing and this and that and the other thing. And hey, let's do cacao with yoga with psilocybin. And it's like, no, you know, let's get clear and grounded with all of this. Let's be in integrity. Let's not overdo it. Let's respect the plant, number one. Then let's respect the culture that it came from, number two, right? There's all that. And let's reclaim our ability, you know, because the women, okay, you'll love this, Indy, the Eleusinian mysteries, right? Where people in ancient Greece would have this experience of never fearing death again, etc., meeting the gods and goddesses. Well, guess how that happened? Through the Kukion, the potion that who made? The priestesses. It was always the women at the head of this. And if people want proof for this, they can go read The Immortality Key by Brian Murarescu. Really fabulous New York Times bestseller a number of years ago. You can get it in audio. And other people have been writing about this. Women at the helm. Women created the potions for working with Dionysus in the ancient mysteries. And all of these other mystery experiences where they would experience the divine. And they had to go through a journey, and sometimes it wasn't pleasant, because the Eleusinian mysteries, what I received is that they all had to go through the underworld just like Persephone, and they all had to be reborn just like Persephone. Not for the faint of heart, which is why they would train for several years. But it wasn't like, hey, I'm on my couch having the Eleusinian mysteries, I'm blown out and I don't know what's going on. No. You had a sponsor, you had planning, you had a little initiatory one in the fall before, right? And so then you were prepared to meet the gods. Okay.
So now where did a lot of this maybe originate? Do you know like the origination of cannabis or psilocybin or cacao? Like where is it, just was all over the earth, or was it a specific location?
Well, you know, these are questions that you can take to your own oracle when you use this medicine. Where are you from, right? But what the kind of information we're receiving is that these plants came here. Their spirits exist, and they seeded themselves into the earth, you know, or they were brought by benevolent beings. But they ultimately have their consciousness in the stars, if you will. Cannabis was even called, I believe, asterion, which meant the remedy of the stars, or the substance of the stars. Aster meant the stars. I found that in the ancient texts. I'm like, what the heck? They're describing this plant. They call it asterion. And I look up a little further, and it's like Galen or one of those ancient physicians was saying this was referring to cannabis. I'm like, oh my God, none of the classicists ever put that together. But of course it would make sense. The priestesses of Hera were using it in Argos in Greece. Asterion grew on the banks of the river where these priestesses, so these priestesses were using it. It may be that the Delphic oracle was using it, or if not, it was probably some form of laurel, which was a known hallucinogen in the ancient world, right? I mean, you start seeing, another great book is called The Chemical Muse by Amon Hillman, okay? And there are other books that have come out over the past 2 decades about this, but there's so much in the way of sacred medicine that was still connecting people in ancient Greece and beyond. And I mean, cannabis, there's a book called Cannabis and the Soma Solution by Chris Bennett. And he talks about like it being basically worldwide from time immemorial. We don't even know how long, but we know we have evidence it was being used in ancient Greece. And he talks about evidence all around the world, seeds that were found, signs that people were going into altered states with cannabis and so forth. So it's been around a long time. Cacao, primarily the Americas, right? Central and South America, that tree that has the pod, that has the seeds. And basically what I and others have gotten is that like ayahuasca, which is a vine and a leaf together brewed in a tea, that the plant would like start beckoning people herself,
Yeah.
and then giving them the information, or maybe they'd get the information in dreams, however it was that it started on planet Earth. Once it started, and then people knew how to use and prepare or would make mixtures and things like that.
Yeah, there's definitely a living spirit within each one of those plants that you can connect into. I often will hear the voice of ayahuasca. I will hear it speak. And I actually ordered a little pendant that has the ayahuasca leaf on it, and just also wear it as a shield for protection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. I mean, there's so many ways in which you can start tuning into these plants with or without having them in your body, right? So you're already, because you're a very open oracle, you're getting information. It's going to teach you how and when to work with them. And you may never even need to take ayahuasca, but just having her presence around your consciousness can inform your oracle state.
Definitely.
That's why you're being attracted to having the symbol of her leaf and so forth, because you're now bringing her and her wisdom into your field. And it's been known that like cacao, people can go into ceremony with others taking cacao in their vicinity, never imbibe the plant, and suddenly feel like, wow, why am I in an open state of consciousness? Because you get on the vibration. It's all about attunement. It's all about intention. And that's what I'm teaching in the Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. And these other beautiful teachers are doing the same. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so much about in the call that we just did this week, they were talking about getting that access to your heart, getting that access to your star being family, right? Those types of things, how we work in harmony with other people. It's all about how to help our life on earth to be better and how we can do that as a group in a more productive way. Once again, the world has coven. Okay.
So how was they using it in the cult of Dionysus then? Because we were going to kind of touch on that.
Yeah, well, what I think is they would create a cauldron of a medicine. What was in there? There's all these, they talk about all these different things that were used in the ancient world. Henbane, hellebore, mandrake, probably cannabis is in there, etc. Belladonna, datura. Whatever that is, they knew the recipes, these women, right? Because for that experience, they're not taking you into the underworld. They're taking you into Dionysus's realm. And the whole thing about these women who would go for these revels with Dionysus into the mountains, no men are involved, no men are allowed. Essentially, they would all go to be healed by Dionysus, healed of masculine transgressions, attacks, and abuses, so that they could come back into alignment with the lingam, okay? The lingam as represented by Dionysus. Now, what I get is that literally they would, if they wanted, take these medicines and they could have a healing sexual encounter with Dionysus from this. okay, in a medicine state. And he'd be like, the story of him healing Ariadne after Theseus dumped her on Crete. That's the story of Dionysus healing women of all of these abuses that they've experienced under patriarchy with males. And he'll give you a beautiful experience. And he has this way, what I had received, not on medicine, but just through my own intuition, is that he was able to holographically split himself so that each woman is having an individual experience of him and feel that she was the only one. She was his best gal, okay? That's the healing of Dionysus. So there's no jealousy.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
That's a real healing for women. There's no, I'm head honcho queen with Di, all right? It's like everyone is head honcho queen with Dionysus. That's how healing he was. He could heal jealousy. He could heal betrayal. He could heal heartbreak. He could heal sexual abuse, violation, and have everyone come into a beautiful experience with the masculine. Because here's what, Dionysus was the child of Persephone being raped by Zeus. Okay. But it's Zeus, Anunnaki reptilian seed, going through the body, the womb of Persephone, which transmutes it into Dionysus, who's this kind of like, got a lot strong feminine energy guy, but is a man. All right. Which is really interesting for the today. And, all of these men who are kind of like, the Krishna bun or whatever it is. And they kind of have a lot of feminine energy. Well, they're going into Dionysian energy, right? And healing, and so that, I think, is the beauty of Dionysus.
Okay. What do you think is the overall just like framework of the cult of Dionysus? Because I think it gets demonized as much as the plants do, in the sense that, it wears this hedonistic tag. Right. So, and then I think also constitutes for a lot of the promiscuous or orgy type acts.
Right.
And, so what does that mean? Like, was this just another thing that was demonized from us truly being able to heal sexual and sacred and intimate wounding?
I think that
or is there just polarized?
Well, we're in duality. So you're always going to have the polarized aspects, right? But the original essence of this was pleasure, healing, and, reunification of masculine and feminine. The cult degenerated under the Roman Empire, which was what? Reptilian. So all these energies are getting into it. People with their unhealed selves are starting to turn it into something else. Just like we see today, like they grab on anything that's, pure at heart, and then they start turning it into something else.
Right.
And, I think with Dionysus, there was a level of pleasure, there was a level of play, but it wasn't meant to be like, there's a point at which anything flips into its opposite, right? And then all of a sudden you have profligate orgy, people being unfaithful to one another that don't want that, crazy out all hours, kind of thing. Degenerated aspect, instead of like, wow, a really exalted experience of connecting with the divine through sexuality. It's about reining it back in to come to the balance point. That's what I see. Okay.
We have some questions here in the chat.
Yeah.
I think I think this could lead us to talk maybe about your course a little bit too. Alice H puts interesting, wondering where Marguerite orders those plant medicines. So if they do this, is this something they have to then provide for themselves?
Yes, we will
Okay.
give you all the instructions and our recommended source, people for it. We have international options and United States options, things that the priestesses themselves have tested and vetted. Now with the cannabis, it's up to your local dispensary, and we will give guidance though as to what kind to get, and that type of thing, what to ask the bud tender at the dispensary and so forth.
Okay. Now, what about states that it's not legal? There's still states that are not legal.
We do.
Alabama being one of them.
Yeah, I know. About half,
Yeah.
There's more that are legal now for medical use. Less, I think only like about 21 that are for recreational use, but that's almost half the states, So, and then there are countries where it's not legal. So what we're recommending is that you purchase and use, especially for our ceremonies, in a place where it is legal. And that means at times going over the border for your own self, your own protection, and everybody has to work it at their own discretion, right?
Right.
So, but we just give some guidance in that regard, and we strongly encourage people to be working it. And right now there's so many states that you can pretty much just go over the border and find your state.
Yeah, that's true. That's
a
true.
little bit of a different story with the countries. I know, like the whole UK, it's illegal. So, okay.
Oh, yeah. And that's a whole topic in itself, why these plant medicines are illegal and why. I mean, it's all to
Still
make money.
Yeah, it's part of the Inquisition to prevent people from using them and using them properly, and get enough generations that forgot how to do it ceremonially, so that then they'll be screwed up half the time when they do use it. I mean, it's so complicated. We all know that. That's why this whole thing is wanting to be cleared and reclaimed.
We had one more question here. So Fibonacci asks, can you ask her about Dionysus mushroom cults?
Oh, well, it's probably likely that mushrooms were part of the sacred potion that the women would be taking. And, because that's the thing I'm most familiar with, are these women's rituals that would happen, the Bacchae, right? Now, I would have to look into it more carefully to see if men were actually participating as well. But I would just say that, mushrooms was probably part of the concoction that they drank.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you're just bringing a lot of clarity around all of this. I
Yeah.
mean, you're definitely bringing forward a perspective. I think for people to, maybe not be so rigid on the ideas. I think this can help dissolve some of those walls of separation.
Yeah.
And because, I still see it all the time in this higher consciousness community. So, and it's so interesting because it's so advanced, with the progression of legalization. It's so advanced in terms of all these cool things that are being made with this stuff. I mean, it's like so much expanded new possibilities with this, where everything is going. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
So
And that's why
yeah.
I'm entering in with, I'm more on the side of like ceremony, caution, care, consciousness. I am not somebody who used drugs my whole life ever at all. I'm like the best emissary for responsible use of sacred medicines, right? And it's all about wisdom and discernment. And it's all about working with the plant, consulting her for your guidance about it. What does she have to tell you? You know what I mean? Like, you're not alone in this. You know, you go into the open state with integrity, with the deva of this plant. You develop a relationship. You ask her, you set up protections in your space so that you don't have things coming in you don't want. That's part of the protocol that you learn in the Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. And this is about you becoming a mature person in relationship with a plant spirit. And it's not about listening to what anybody else is saying about it, you know. But I do say to people, look, if you're feeling called or mostly a yes, that's yes. If you're feeling like, ooh, that's no. Respect that. You don't have to catapult or advance yourself beyond where you are. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. Maybe plants is not your path. That's fine. I'm just saying that for those for whom it is, it would be helpful to have these protocols and the approaches that we're providing. And for those who are starting to learn, or now that there's all this legality, we want to be teachers and helpers for those people too, because it's exploding, right? There needs to be consciousness. There needs to be care. There needs to be education. We can't just be like running around with this stuff like crazy, creating more trauma for people.
Yeah.
That's the point.
I think some versions of it too are just not all that healthy either.
Yeah.
You know, like with marijuana and the vaping. I don't think vaping is very good for the throat. Yeah. I've seen a lot of things with that. So I think choosing like healthier ways to take the medicine,
Yeah,
and being conscious around it. Yeah, no, this is amazing. I'm so excited you're putting this together. Thank you so much for coming on my live today and sharing this beautiful course experience with everyone. So I hope you guys watching go check out Marguerite's course, and the links to it will be down in the description. And maybe you could just give everyone the links. You could just say your website so that way they can go.
Yeah, it's sevensistersmysteryschool.com. The 7 is written out, SEVEN. Now, I recommend they go through your affiliate link because that will help share some of the abundance with Indigo. If not, if you're like, oh, whatever, just go to, you know, sevensistersmysteryschool.com. You'll see on the homepage that you can get right into it. There's a link. There's all the information there. There's you can sign up for that free call that's on demand now of all the priestesses, where we shared how you can use sacred medicine for your benefit, that one right there. And then you can just sign up and join us on Tuesday. We'd be so happy to have you. And if you can't participate live, you can watch and replay. Again, ingestion is not required for this. I think it would be a great way. It can also be healing for people or mothers or whatever who are like, I don't know, my child is lying on the couch, stoned all the time. Well, come on into this room and see what is that about? Why would they be? And how you can be communing with Lady Cannabis yourself, you know, even to work with your son who is doing that, right? You know, there's all sorts of ways creatively. There's no limit, you know, to what it means to work with these plants responsibly.
Oh, we got the chat rolling here.
Oh,
So yeah, I think this was a pretty popular, like a good topic
excellent.
to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so what's happening, right? It's really, as all these legalities roll out, we've got to be prepared. And that's what I'm doing here.
Well, we appreciate you so much, Marguerite. You are just so amazing and, you know, innovative too. This is innovative stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I love to support you in what you do, because you're, again, accelerative and innovation and keeping the next thing coming in. for us to continue to expand together and hold these sacred containers. I mean, so much benefit comes from sacred containers and sharing, having a shared mind field experience with others all over the world that, you know, you're just building support networks and stuff like this that just makes us stronger, because we are building the new future Earth through levels of commerce as well, and creating new fields of healing, and even the medical field. You know, we're transforming that through this community.
Yes, and we're transforming the addiction healing field. Let's just close with that. Because as I've said before, the addiction specialists are good with realizing the emotional healing that has to happen with a person, the neurological kind of neuropathways level, that's getting more. What they're missing is the spirit level and the entity level. Okay. So as we start working with plants and the devas, and we understand where are the pitfalls and the Velcro hooks that let the entities come in, then we figure out how to release the entities and reverse out an addiction situation, be it for Lady Cannabis or anything else. Okay, this is a real cutting edge possibility place. You could become the next major master of this on the planet, you know, starting your own ministry and healing center for this, working with the spirit level of it, in addition to those other levels. And any addiction specialist who gets that level, boom, you're going to be golden, right? So there's so much that can release us from these miseries.
Absolutely.
That we had, and that would go into alcohol, and that would go into pills or anything else. Okay.
Well, especially as one transcends the matrix and comes out of medical tyranny.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. This is what's here for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, this is, you know, on the cutting edge, as are all the courses that you're doing, and what you're saying. Oh my gosh, your stuff about healing of the masculine, amazing, truly beyond next level. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll dive into it sometime. I'm
We'll
sure
dive
we
in.
will.
All
But
right.
yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everybody watching today. We love you all so much and hope that you enjoyed this discussion today. It was a fun one and I really appreciate it. So take care, everyone, and namaste. We love you all.